Good afternoon. This is Ludo Wilkens from healthdata. Thanks for joining this call. I sit here together with some colleagues. I've got Jan Kips with me, who is the head of the development team of healthdata. I've got Vincent Stadio, who is a member of the development team, who is quite concerned with the developments we made specifically for the cancer registry. And we've got Karel van Kamp, who is part of the support team of healthdata and who has as main preoccupation to assist users and laboratories in the onboarding exercise for the cancer registry. So thank you for joining this call. As you will have seen, I have put all of you on mute. This doesn't mean you cannot ask questions or say anything. It's just to avoid that we got some rumors in the call which may disturb the sequence of this presentation. So if you want to say something or ask something, there are two possible ways. One is by unmuting yourself by pushing the button and asking your question. The other one is by chatting in the chat box, where we will try to answer your question once we see it. Okay. If there is any concerns or questions, do not hesitate to intervene. Okay, the objective of the meeting is quite simple. As you all are probably aware, the current registrations for the cancer registry, they are now migrated towards the application healthdata. And the goal of this meeting is to make sure that we all have a common understanding of where we are at this moment and what are the expectations and procedures for the future. So this meeting can be called a success if this transition is well understood and the use of the software is clear for everyone. As an agenda, we got a quite simple agenda. First, because we are aware that we have a quite mixed public, where we have some IT people, where we also have doctors present and eventually some administration assistants. So we are trying to spread a message during this call that can be valid for everyone. If there are things you do not understand or where you have questions about, do not hesitate to let us know that. Perhaps one other remark, I told you who is present here on our table, but we of course also have a presence of the cancer registry itself. So there are some people who are joining this call. So in case you have specific questions for the cancer registry and this exercise, you can also ask these questions in this call as well. So first we're going to introduce healthdata very shortly. Then we're going to talk more specifically of what the Belgian Cancer Registry via healthdata means, the process we went through, where we are at this moment, and what are the next steps. And we will also do some demo of the existing software, the existing procedures, so that you can have a look on it if you have not used it yet, how it is working. Okay, short introduction of healthdata. Healthdata has been is a part of the Scientific Institute, and the initiative of healthdata is started as part of the e-health, the Plan e-gezondheid, Plan e-santé, which we have different articles, and one of these articles is Article 18, which handles the consolidation and inventarization of all medical registrations that exist in Belgium, and to have a uniform and standardized application to manage all these different registrations. So that is clearly the point where healthdata has been started for. It started at about 3 years ago. Meanwhile, we have been installed in virtually all hospitals and laboratories, starting with one major exercise around diabetes in the hospitals, which is the ICET study. And currently we have rolled out different registers already some major, some minor, and this is the next step, of course, together with the cancer registry, to go to a new form of registration. Concerning collecting data, if we refer to the Holland side of the taxes, we cannot make it more fun, but of course we can make it, one moment, we can try to make it easier for you. So that is one of the goals behind the application. So behind it, there is a clear desire to simplify things. One of the major things is that by using health data for all these data registrations, we have the possibility to uniformize the information that is being gathered, which also has an important impact. And I think the cancer registry is a very good example of that, that the data that are being required can be harmonized so that extractions from your systems, from your primary systems, can be made much more easier, and more important, be reused for other data collections afterwards. So that's clearly the goal of health data. Of course, therefore we need an information architecture and data management. And the final result, of course, of all these exercises is that you will have a reporting afterwards of all the data that have been collected. I'm personally responsible for the support and onboarding team. What means onboarding? We got two kinds of onboarding. The one is technical, which means that we have to make sure as organization that all those who need to use the registers dispose of an application health data within their organization. So that's a technical onboarding. So as I said, all labos, or practically all labos and hospitals, dispose of such an installation at this moment. The other point, and this call is part of the thematical onboarding. That means we start with a certain register, and we want to make sure that everyone on board has got the same information and is well aware of what is being requested for participating in this data collection. A little scheme. You have to know that specifically for the cancer registry, we needed to do an architectural change because previously all the data were transmitted to health data for researchers, which is called HD4S, towards the scientific institutes, and also for other data collections, for example, to the INAMI, RISIF. But here we have a specific flow with the cancer registry, which needed a structural change from our side, and that we also had to coordinate with the different parties which are involved in this kind of data transfers, like, for example, the encryption module, and like, for example, the eHealthBox applications. And all that has been done over the past months. So if we look at the left side of the scheme, there you have your registration in your LIMS, which means that all the data that you are putting in your primary systems at this moment are the basis of this data collection. So the full set of what is being required for the cancer registry is currently in your primary systems and can be extracted from your system and in HD4DP being loaded as a CSV file. So it's a comma separated value file. These informations are then sent to batch codage, which means that informations are being pseudonymized, then are entered into what we call, in this case, HD4 BCR, health data for the Belgian Cancer Registry, where the data monitoring can take place. And once the data are validated by the Cancer Registry, they pass through batch decodage within the data warehouse system of the Belgian Cancer Registry, where they can then create their reportings and analysis. Okay. If there are any questions, please do not hesitate to intervene. If not, I just continue with the presentation. So BCR via healthdata, perhaps a little bit an overview of what has been done up till now. As said, HD4DP, healthdata for data providers, has been installed in all impacted organizations. We have had some sessions with the LIMS providers, that's the companies who create or who develop the Labo information management systems, have been organized in order to make them adapt the formats of their current extractions, which you use for the current FTP file transfer. There are some small changes that needed to be done in order to be conform with the new form of registration through healthdata. So we had different sessions with these LIMS providers, asking them to adapt their formats, to test and validate them, and to roll them out in the different impacted laboratoria. Then we also had sessions, so that has been taking place in January. Then in April, we have a specific session with all the laboratories and development centers who have their own LIMS system in order to make sure that they also dispose of the information of how these extractions need to be adapted in order to be conform with health data. Then, of course, once the LIMS providers have adapted their formats, it needed to be rolled out within the different organizations. For example, if I take a look at Da Vinci, we see that today in all the contacts we had, they dispose of the latest version where these formats have been implemented. Then, of course, there is the validation of the adapted LIMS formats by the pilot labs. So for each vendor, we have indicated a pilot lab to make sure that the changes in the extractions that were made by the LIMS providers are correct and valid for new formats. And then we started to send onboarding mails, so mails towards those people where we know of that are responsible for this data collection within your organizations. And there were mails sent in August, October, and December to invite you to connect to the application, so to request a user account, to start participating for the cancer registry, and to try uploading the adapted CSV files in the application to make sure that also from your side, these informations are correctly captured and transmittable. So that has been done. What are now the timings for what is in front of us? We have indicated previously in the onboarding mails that normally the test period would be till the end of December. But seeing the different timings, some dependencies we still had in our own development and in installations, we have decided together with the cancer registry to extend this test period till the end of January. So the 31st of January, you still have the possibility to send test extractions, which can be, for example, test extraction from the first month of this year, or an extraction from last year. These data will be considered as test data anyway. So these are just to make sure that the flow is correctly working, that your extractions are correct and that they are correctly transmitted. Okay.
If I can make a small remark. Yeah. Okay. The exports you.
Yeah. Sorry, some technical.
Okay. The exports you make and the information you send at the moment, it will arrive in the test environment of the cancer register. So later on, these files have to be sent again So when you do the export, be certain to keep these files because they have to be resent at a later point.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for this remark. As we said, the end of the test phase will be by the end of January. We would start the production as of the second week of February, still to be confirmed, but of course we want that week together with the cancer registry to make sure that all the transactions that have been done are correct and eventually give us some time to intervene where necessary if we detect certain issues. In order to avoid that you try to send the whole bulk of the year and then see that eventually something is wrong, we agreed also with the cancer registry that we would approach this to first send a limited set of data, for example, the data of January 2017, and then make sure again that these data are correctly transmitted and received. If that is okay, then we can agree to send the rest of the data. This will also a little bit be depending on the stress test, because if you are going to send these informations as laboratories almost at the possibly the same time, we have to see how it impacts, for example, the performance of the application. And depending on that, we will decide whether we will ask you to send the rest of the year in one bulk or eventually put it in different parts. But that will be validated and confirmed in the beginning of February. When 2017 data are being sent, then we can pass to the monthly reporting for January, February, and so on. So each time at the end of the month or the beginning of the next month, you can do your extract of the previous month and send it in the way that meanwhile you will be familiar with. One other thing which has specifically been agreed with the cancer registry is that your sending of data will be in a parallel way as well through healthdata as through the existing FTP method. So this means the same extractions can be used to be sent through healthdata as for your current method, which you are already familiar with. Okay. A small word on the data provisioning methods. So there are different ways to operate with healthdata. One of the things I did not mention when going through the slide of the scheme of the healthdata application, you have to be aware that, as I've already said, healthdata is a software which is installed in your organization, within your laboratory or within the hospital where you as a laboratory are being part of, where you use this infrastructure. That means you will have a URL, a browser address, which you can use in your Mozilla or your Google Chrome or whatever, and you will be able to access that application, but you will not be on the World Wide Web. You will be working on the local machine in your hospital within the security of your laboratory or hospital. Okay, so there is the possibility to use the manual interface, which means that you can just enter data one by one, going through the complete form. That, of course, is not desired for this kind of exercise because we're talking about a lot of data. Therefore, at least data are being transferred by using the CSV manual upload. So when you are in the application, we're going to look at it during the demo, you will have the possibility to upload a CSV, and after the upload, you will have the possibility to validate the correctness of the data. So you will be able to check whether there are errors or whether there are eventually validation warnings. CSV provisioning, but in that interface, using that method, you still need to submit the data after you have loaded them. We specifically chose to use this method for the testing period and also for the first month in order to be sure that this process is correctly working. Once everything is being validated and we see that data are correctly transmitted, we can go to a more automized way. That will not be the third point, CSV provisioning. CSV provisioning is a possibility to put your data, your file in a folder. It will automatically be loaded, but you still have to go to your application to select your registrations and send them. The fourth option will be the final way we go for, that is the CSV fast track. There you will have the possibility to drop your files into a certain folder, eventually directly by your LIMS system. So if you push the button on your LIMS system and it's being configured to drop it in that correct folder, you will not have to do anything anymore, because the healthdata application will pick up the file and automatically send it. And after the sending, there will be two files which are generated, a file with the success and a file with the errors. And in the errors, of course, we hope that it's always empty, but in the errors, you will have the possibility to track down what is the eventual reason and eventually adapt your data so you can start a resending of these files in error. Complete sets of documentation can be found on our healthdata DCD site, the data collection definition site. This is certainly a site that is very useful for people who are involved with the extractions and preparing the CSV formats. So this is the DCD site, and if I go to the BCR registry, one moment. So I put it in English, and then BCR, Belgian Cancer Registry. There you see your different sub-registries within the cancer registry. And if you click that, then you have complete information of the whole structure of the files. So this is information that is needed to consult if you want to adapt, or you still need to adapt certain things in your CSV files, because these are the things that are being required. And the possible selections you can do, etc., it's all being described. So I'm aware we have a mixed public, but I'm also quite sure that IT people looking at this, they will be quite familiar with this kind of language. You also have the CSV column names, so you have an overview of what is being requested. If there are reference lists like the postal code, you will also find them here. If there are computed expressions, they are also present here. And some additional information, for example, on SNOMED or CODAP, can be found as well. You also have the possibility to do a CSV extract, which means that by pushing it, you will have the possibility to have a file only with the titles, of course, of your CSV as it's being expected for the application. Okay. Another thing that is the support page. So we also have, of course, a quite extensive set of support informations which are present on our support pages. So if here you just click or you put BCR, you will in English, you will have the page of the Belgian Cancer Registry instructions. Now it's only the presentation that we have given previously with the LIMS providers, how the CSV files should be adapted. So if I click this, then I have the complete presentation which has been used at that moment. So you can also consult this information there. You can download it. One moment. Okay. Here we will also put the PowerPoint that we used today, and we will also put a resume of or the full capture and well, the whole presentation of the GoToMeeting will be there as a movie. A YouTube movie will be present there. Okay. Okay, that's about the support pages. The support pages, of course, can also be very helpful If you have other questions about how do I request a user account, how can I ask for a supplementary access to a data collection, etc. So it's quite an extensive support site at this moment. If you have other questions that you cannot find in the documentation materials, of course, you're very welcome to contact us at our or at the website and at the email address support.healthdata at wiv isp.be, or of course at the telephone number 02 793 0142. As I mentioned before, we have Karel here who will have the main focus to assist you all in successfully migrating towards this new reporting method via healthdata. You will, if you haven't got an account yet or you haven't had contact yet with Karel, you will receive a mail or today or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, that will invite you to let us know a date and time when Karel can contact you in order to guide you through the process if you have certain questions. Okay, so if you can do it independently, that's of course even better. But we are available to assist you through the whole process, which means if you don't have an account yet, we will help you to request an account, how to confirm your participation to the BCR data collection, how to extract the CSV from your LIMS. That's something you know better than us, probably. But if you have the extract, then how to upload it in the health data application, and of course, how to submit registrations. Then, of course, if problems occur, we will try to solve them at the best or escalate, for example, to the concerned parties in case it is necessary when, for example, we have some validation errors or warnings. When we need to follow up on specific issues, it will be managed through cases. And with the cancer registry, we agreed on a dashboard where we will follow up on the progress. So here we have a dashboard of how things are evolving. For example, we are going to track whether user accounts have been created, whether the current extract of the LIMS is okay, whether the CSV files are correctly uploaded and we're not confronted with any errors, and whether the sending through fast track has been okay. And then, yeah, we see also the different actions per week, as well as the cases that we have per month. So we will be able to track this to make sure that everyone can be onboarded as soon as possible. Okay, before we proceed to the demo, is there any questions that pop up at this stage? I suppose the silence means that there are no questions. I hope it's not that no one is present anymore. Okay. Just to make sure that we have a common understanding, I want to do a small live demo. So we hope, of course, that Murphy's Law is not interacting with us. So just to guide you through the process, when you have access to your local URL, which points to your health data application, this is normally the menu that you will see. If your organization is part if within your organization it has been the decision that for eventually if different labos or different hospitals or different sites make use of the same health data application, you will have here a drop-down, as you see here. Of course, if the drop-down is selectable, it's important that you select the correct organization for which you want to start registering, okay? If you want to request an account, then you just push this button. You create yourself a username. If your organization, if you have access to different software applications with the same login and passwords, probably you are making use of LDAP. If that is the case, then we suggest you that you use the same username as you use for your other applications there. You put your first name and last name. The organization, as I indicated, you select the right organization where you will want to start registering for. You put your email and you select the register you want to have access to, for example, BCR in this case. And then if you push request, it will generate an email towards your local health data administrator. So each organization has one or more health data administrators who will receive the mail that you have sent and who need to take action to validate your user request. So they will receive it and they have to approve the request. They can say, oh, or yes, it's okay, or they can say, this is not a data collection this user has the right to, and they can eventually decide to reject the request. Of course, normally they will approve it. Requester mail, that's the possibility if you want to ask access for different people within your organization, you can do it for them. In that case, you put your requester mail there. That means that you will also be informed once the user requests have been approved or rejected. Okay. So once I have a user account, after the intervention of the local administrator, I will be able to log in, and there you will have the possibility. Of course, I'm in a test environment, so I've got access to a lot of registers. Logically, for you, you will only have access to the BCR registry or other registries that are involved for the laboratories. So here, if I click BCR, I come into the first version that we have created. And here you see, for example, BCR breast. Just taking a small look at the participation document. So as I said, you could also decide to start a new registration from scratch. And there you have all your fields which need to be filled in. Of course, if you dispose of the national number of the patient and you dispose also of a national number connector, these data will automatically be filled in. But for you, this is not very relevant because probably it will be uploaded by CSV. In case you don't have don't dispose of a national registry number of the patient, you also have the possibility to have it auto-calculated. The things that we need, therefore, is the date of birth. So, for example, oops. Okay, that's a little bit early. Okay, the sex, and then you see here the possibility to generate a calculated value. Okay, so if I click here, then yeah, my screen is a little bit too little for my eyes. When I click here, there will be an automatic calculation of a code pad, as we call it. So it's as a replacement of a non-existing national number. Of course, to be avoided to the maximum, because normally most of the patients, the national number should be known and registered. Within the registration then, so for the structure of the application, on the left you have your different parts of the registration form. If you click it, you can immediately go there. And on the right, you have your progress bar, and you have the possibility to see what are the required fields. So, and if you click on a certain required field, you immediately go to the correct field, so you can start filling it in where necessary. Okay, so that's just a small introduction, but as I told you, this will not be very relevant because you will not have to put these data manually. Luckily enough, you will have the possibility to upload CSVs. So the principle here is that you will have the possibility to upload CSVs, select a CSV, and once it's, so I'm not going to do that for this exercise, you just select the correct CSV you want to load, and then your CSV will be returned into the application. Let me just have a look. All these have been submitted. If you want to adapt the overview of what has been prepared or sent or whatever, you have different filters here. So if I want to see only my registrations, or if I want to see within a certain creation date or last modification date, or for example, status open. Yeah, I see that these are effectively open. And I also have the possibility to adapt my list view. So for example, data quality items, there we can look at the progress bar, we can look at eventual errors, we can look at the warnings. So this is an easy way of viewing the data that has been loaded. So after loading a CSV extraction, this is a very helpful way of making it visible. So if you say this is the view I eventually want to use afterwards for later use, you can give it a certain name, and then the next time you go to your data collection, you will be able to select this view again. Okay.
Maybe just to add to that, the goal is over time that you're not using the interface. You probably won't be needing the interface too much. In the beginning, you first check if the upload works fine. These are the tools and the tricks you can use to do that in an efficient way. But over time, the idea is you upload the files in a certain folder, and the interface, you don't have to see it unless for specific errors and bug fixing.
Yeah, thanks, Johan. That's indeed the functionality of the fast track that we talked about during the presentation. So that's a little bit the view. And of course, if you say I want to do a selection and I want to start submitting these data, then you can here have your actions and submit all registrations. Perhaps I can do that if the cancer registry is okay with that. I will confirm that these data are being sent. Okay, and on the bottom then you see your progress bar so that you know what the status of this sending is, after which the status will change. Okay, that's a very short overview of the current functionality. I'm not sure whether you have at this stage other information you would like to obtain for us. So I'm open for any questions that you have at this moment. If you want to ask a question, please do by unmuting yourself. I see that during my talking there are already some chats, but I don't think I have to take them into account. So these questions are being covered. That's very good. People are working while I'm talking. Okay, any questions from your side?
Please unmute yourself before asking.
Or any questions specifically for the people of the cancer registry still? Okay. Well, if no further questions, I only want to reiterate that, of course, you are very welcome with questions afterwards on our support address Do not hesitate also to consult our support pages in case you have questions, because the chances are big that you can find the information there as well. And of course, as already said, if you didn't have any contact with Karel yet, we will send you a mail in which you have the possibility to give your preference of date and time where you would like an intervention from our side, so we can guide you through the process. Being said that, I'm quite confident that we will be able to drive this exercise successfully. And I want to thank again everyone for the attention during this call. And do not hesitate to let us know in case something pops up. Okay, thanks to you all, and hope to see some results soon. Thanks.
Ik heb gewoon die vraag van de Ludo gekregen.